the shadow of the mountain god. In a world carved by tooth and claw, where every heartbeat was a wager against hunger, predators, and the fury of the elements, a small tribe of early humans clung to life at the very edge of endurance. Their home was the vast, sun-scorched savanna, a land of golden grass and bone-white horizons. It was a place of stark beauty, where the wind sang through the dry trees and the earth split beneath relentless heat. But it was also a land of cruel truth. Here, only the strong survived, and even the strong endured by chance. Yet this tribe was not entirely alone in its struggle. Above them, watching, shaping their fate, moved a being of immense power, a colossal gorilla, both protector and tormentor, a god of the mountain whose shadow stretched across their fragile lives. The story begins with a chase. The ground trembled as the mountain god descended, his roars rolling like thunder over the plain. The people scattered, darting between thorn bushes and broken stones, hearts pounding, lungs burning. To their eyes, the massive ape was both terror and destiny. His eyes glowed with intelligence, his movements deliberate, and though his size promised annihilation, his purpose was more mysterious. This was not a hunt, it was a trial. When the strongest warriors of the tribe turned back, their bodies painted with dust and blood, they faced him not with the madness of prey, but with the defiance of those who knew ritual. The clash that followed was brutal. Fists like stone met spears of bone, roars mixed with battle cries, and the savannah echoed with the struggle. Yet it was not slaughter, but ceremony, a violent dance where strength was tested and respect demanded. For in this raw world, power was the only language understood, and the mountain god spoke it fluently. By the time the dust settled, the tribe was broken and bloodied, but alive. They had not been destroyed, only measured and, perhaps, spared. The days that followed were merciless. The sun burned without pity, and the cracked earth stretched endlessly. The tribe, weary and hungry, began the long walk. Each step was a battle against exhaustion, each breath a defiance against despair. Yet as they moved forward, the giant ape followed. He no longer roared, no longer struck. Instead, he shadowed them, walking with the heavy, deliberate gait of a guardian. His presence was oppressive, but also strangely comforting, like a storm cloud that both threatens and shields. Their bodies grew gaunt, ribs sharp against skin, faces hollowed by suffering. Yet, within their eyes burned a stubborn flame. They did not surrender. Even when the land seemed to mock them with endless barrenness, they pressed onward. And then, when the last strength seemed drained, they stumbled upon salvation, a river. It wound like a silver ribbon through the desolation, water sparkling beneath the sun. To see it was to believe in miracles. To drink from it was to be reborn. At the riverbank, they knelt and drank deeply, their thirst quenched by the earth itself. Side by side, the mountain god bent as well, lowering his massive head to the same water. In that instant, man and beast were bound by a shared truth. Both were children of the same soil, both drawn to the same source of life. For a fleeting moment, there was no predator, no prey, no god, no mortal, only kinship beneath the vast sky. The river gave more than drink, it gave food. Men waded into its shallows, eyes sharp, hands quick. They caught fish with instinctive precision, their movements guided by countless generations of survival. Each slippery body, pulled from the water, was more than sustenance. It was a step toward mastery. They were no longer scavengers at nature's mercy. They were hunters of a new kind, learning to shape their fate with cunning as much as strength. And then came fire. One man, patient and relentless, struck stone upon stone until a spark leapt into being. He bent low, breath steady, coaxing the ember into flame. The others gathered wood, feeding the fire until it roared with life. The first light cast their faces in gold and shadow, eyes wide with awe. Fire was more than warmth, more than a tool. It was a symbol, a beacon of their rising intellect, a defiance against darkness, and a promise of a future. Around the fire, the tribe became something greater. They roasted the fish, the scent of cooked meat filling the air with hope. They ate slowly, savoring not just the food but the moment itself. The leader of the tribe, his face carved by time and sun, broke bread, or what passed for bread in that age, and shared with his mate. In a world of unyielding struggle, such an act of tenderness was a revelation. Love, even in its simplest form, was resistance. The children laughed, their bellies full for the first time in many days. Elders leaned close to the fire, letting its warmth seep into aching bones. Warriors, once locked in desperate combat with the mountain god, now sat in silence, their gazes fixed on the horizon. And the giant ape lingered at the edge of the firelight, his massive silhouette outlined by flame and starlight. He did not intrude, yet his presence was felt, vast and unyielding like the mountains themselves. As twilight deepened, the savannah was painted in hues of purple and gold. The river whispered softly, carrying with it the promise of continuity. For the first time, the tribe felt more than survival. They felt belonging. They were no longer just individuals scraping against the void, but a community bound by flame, by water, by memory. In the crackle of the fire and the murmur of the river, something profound stirred. They told stories of the chase, of the trial, of the mountain god whose shadow loomed eternal. Children listened with wide eyes, their imaginations kindled by the words. Elders nodded, seeing in the telling the beginning of tradition, the first threads of culture. That night, beneath a canopy of stars, humanity took a step forward. They had faced terror and endured. They had found water, harnessed fire, and discovered the strength of unity. The mountain god watched, his dark eyes glinting with unreadable thought. Perhaps he saw in them a reflection of himself, creatures struggling, surviving, destined for something greater. And so, in the flickering firelight beside the river, the dawn of humanity was born, not in triumph, not in peace, but in resilience. From hardship came strength, from unity came hope, and from the shadow of the mountain god came the promise of greatness. For as long as his shadow stretched across the savannah, so too would the spirit of man rise to meet it.